The grand chamber of Concordia Prime stretched out like a vast cathedral of steel and light. Ambassador Elena Vasquez sat at the human delegation table, her fingers drumming quietly against the smooth surface. Around her, representatives from 47 alien species filled the tiered seats, their various forms creating a bizarre tapestry of scales, feathers, and stranger things that had no name in human languages. She had been coming to this station for 5 years now. 5 years of talking, negotiating, pleading. 5 years of watching the same smug faces dismiss every reasonable request humanity made. Today would be different. Speaker Jurath rose from his elevated platform, his multiple eye stalks swiveling to focus on the human section. The Zorani leader commanded respect throughout the galaxy, having held his position for nearly a century. His species had been instrumental in founding the Galactic Council 3,000 years ago, and he never let anyone forget it. We gathered today to address the human petition regarding mining rights in the Outer Traverse. His translator rendered his clicking speech into flat, emotionless standard. The Council has reviewed your request and finds it premature. Elena felt her jaw tighten. Premature. The same word they had used last year. And the year before that. With respect, Speaker, she stood, her voice carrying across the chamber. Humanity has been a council member for 50 years. We have followed every regulation, paid every fee, and contributed our share to mutual defense. The Karathi were granted mining rights in similar regions after only 20 years of membership. A ripple of what might have been amusement passed through the alien delegates. The Karathi ambassador, a being that resembled a mobile plant more than an animal, shifted uncomfortably in its environmental pod. Jurath's eye stalks contracted slightly. A gesture Elena had learned meant dismissal. The Karathi did not arrive with warships bristling at our borders. They did not expand to 40 systems in a single generation. They showed proper deference to established order. Deference, Elena repeated, letting the word hang in the air. Is that what you call equality among members? We call it wisdom, Jurath replied. Young species must learn patience. The galaxy has existed long before humanity discovered fire. It will exist long after your brief moment ends. You would do well to remember your place. Elena felt something cold settle in her stomach. Not anger. She had moved past anger months ago during the late-night strategy sessions with Earth's leadership. This was clarity. She pulled up her data slate and projected a holographic display for the entire chamber to see. For the record, I would like to submit evidence of systematic discrimination against humanity by this council. Murmurs spread through the chamber. This was not how petitions usually proceeded. The council granted the Bashari access to Type 3 FTL routes after 30 years of membership. Humanity has been denied this access. The council provided the Yothrani with defensive shield technology at developmental stage 4. Humanity remains restricted to stage 2 equivalents. The council established favorable trade terms for 17 species based on their economic contribution. Humanity, despite ranking 7th in gross system product, receives the same terms as species ranked 43rd. She advanced through slide after slide, each one showing another disparity, another broken promise, another case where the rules seem to exist specifically to keep humanity down. You speak of order. Speaker Jurath, but what I see is a system designed to preserve the power of those who arrived first. You claim to value peace and cooperation, but you deny us the tools to defend ourselves. You praise our contributions while ensuring we can never compete on equal terms. The chamber had gone quiet. Several delegates were studying her data with what appeared to be genuine surprise. Others looked uncomfortable, as if they had never quite connected these dots before. Jurath's voice cut through the silence like a blade. The human delegation forgets itself. We have shown you extraordinary patience, allowing your aggressive expansion and overlooking your militaristic tendencies. You should be grateful for the privilege of council membership, not demanding special treatment. Special treatment? Alana's voice remained calm, but something in her tone made even Jurath pause. We are asking for the same treatment every other species received. Nothing more, nothing less. And you shall receive it when you have earned it, Jurath said. In time. Perhaps another century of proving your commitment to peaceful cooperation will demonstrate your worthiness. Another century, Alana repeated softly. Jurath seemed to sense his advantage. Yes, and if this delegation continues to disrupt council harmony with these inappropriate demands, we may need to discuss sanctions, trade restrictions, limitations on further colonial expansion. We have tools to ensure compliance. Ambassador Vasquez, I suggest you do not force us to use them. The threat hung in the air like poison gas. Alana looked around the chamber at the assembled representatives of galactic civilization. Some looked sympathetic but said nothing. Others appeared satisfied, comfortable in their positions of power. A few seemed genuinely confused, as if they had never questioned whether the system was fair. She thought of the instructions in her pocket, transmitted from Earth 3 days ago. She thought of the shipyards hidden in deep space, the research stations that officially did not exist, the alliances humanity had quietly built with species too small or too distant to matter to the Council. She thought of humanity's long history of being told to wait, to accept, to submit. No, she said simply. Jurath's eyes stalk straightened. Excuse me? No, Alana repeated, gathering her data slate. Humanity will not wait another century. We will not accept sanctions for demanding equality. We will not be grateful for scraps from your table. She gestured to her delegation. 4 other humans stood with her, their expressions calm but resolute. Effective immediately, humanity withdraws from all active council negotiations. We will maintain our embassy for humanitarian coordination, but we will not participate in your political theater. We will not submit petitions that you have already decided to deny. We will not pretend that this is a council of equals when it so clearly is not. The chamber erupted in shocked chatter. Jurath's translator struggled to keep up with his rapid clicking. You cannot simply leave negotiations. There are protocols, procedures. Alana was already walking toward the exit, her delegation following. She paused at the doorway and looked back at the speaker. You threaten us with isolation, speaker, as if we have not already been isolated by your restrictions. You offer us membership as if it were a gift, when we have bought it with blood and treasure. You demand gratitude for the privilege of being kept in a cage. She smiled, and there was nothing warm in it. Humanity declines the privilege. We will find our own way. The heavy doors closed behind them with a sound like thunder. The emergency session convened 3 weeks after the humans walked out. Speaker Jurath addressed a chamber that felt somehow emptier despite being full. The human seats sat vacant, a gap in the circular arrangement that drew the eye like a missing tooth. The situation will resolve itself, Jurath announced with confidence. Humanity has made an emotional decision. When their economy begins to suffer, when their colonies realize they have cut themselves off from galactic commerce, they will return, chastened, ready to negotiate properly. Council Intelligence Director Mira said. A Corvani, whose species had served as information brokers for 2 millennia, was less certain. Her forearms gestured at the holographic displays floating before the assembly. With respect, Speaker, initial reports are concerning. Human trade vessels have ceased using council-regulated routes entirely. Their colonies are not responding to standard communications. Every human representative has withdrawn from council institutions across the galaxy. Predictable tantrum behavior, interjected Ambassador Drex of the Bashari. a massive reptilian being whose species controlled significant military assets. They are hoping we will panic and offer concessions. We must remain firm. Zurath's eye stalks rotated in agreement. Precisely. We will impose mild economic sanctions to demonstrate our displeasure. Nothing that would cause true hardship, but enough to remind them of their dependence on council infrastructure. The vote passed easily. Humanity was restricted from accessing council banking networks and trade exchanges. Not a crippling blow, but enough to cause significant inconvenience. Or so they thought. 2 months later, Miracet stood before another emergency session. This time, her demeanor had changed. The confident intelligence director looked shaken. "The sanctions have had no measurable effect," she reported, her four hands manipulating data streams with increasing urgency. "Human vessels are operating normally, using routes we did not know existed. Their colonies report no economic distress. In fact, trade appears to be increasing, but outside council monitoring systems." "Impossible," Drex growled. "No species can maintain interstellar commerce without council infrastructure." Miracet pulled up a star map. Red lines appeared, crisscrossing the galaxy in patterns that made several delegates gasp. "We have detected 73 new trade routes established in the past 60 days. All connecting human colonies with independent systems and minor civilizations. The humans are not collapsing into isolation. They are building an alternative network." Zurath leaned forward on his platform. "How did we not know these routes existed?" "Because we never looked," Miracet admitted. "These are dangerous paths through unstable regions, requiring constant navigation adjustments. They are slower and more difficult than council routes. But they exist, and the humans are using them successfully." More data appeared. Shipyard signatures. Energy readings. The telltale signs of industrial activity on a massive scale. "This is just the beginning," Miracet continued. "Our surveillance assets have identified at least 19 major construction sites in deep space. These facilities have been operating for years, possibly decades. They were hidden in asteroid fields, nebulae, and dead systems we classified as worthless." "What are they building?" asked the Yothrani ambassador, a crystalline being whose voice chimed like bells. "Everything," Miracet replied grimly. "Shipyards, research stations, refineries, defense platforms, and ships. Hundreds of ships, possibly thousands. Military vessels of classifications we have never seen before." The chamber erupted in alarmed chatter. Zurath called for order, his translator barely keeping up with his agitated clicking. "This is a violation of the membership treaty. Undeclared military assets are forbidden." "They are no longer members," Miracet reminded him quietly. "And according to our legal experts, they never technically violated the treaty while they were members. These facilities were listed in their industrial reports, but categorized as commercial operations in remote territories. We simply never investigated thoroughly." Ambassador Corval of the Siri, a species known for their mathematical precision, spoke up. "They planned this. For years, perhaps since they first joined the council, they have been preparing for the possibility of leaving." The implications settled over the chamber like a heavy blanket. Humanity had not thrown a tantrum. They had executed a strategy. "We should open negotiations," suggested the Karathi ambassador. "Offer some concessions to bring them back to the table before this situation deteriorates further." Zurath's eye stalks contracted in what might have been disgust. "We will not reward this behavior. The Council does not bow to pressure from aggressive young species." Drex rumbled in agreement. "A show of force is required. We must demonstrate the consequences of defying Council authority." Miracet activated another display, and the chamber fell silent. It showed fleet movements, defensive positions, and strategic deployments across human space. "I would advise against military action," she said carefully. Human naval doctrine is unlike anything we have encountered. Their fleets do not concentrate in defensive formations. They operate in small, highly mobile units spread across vast territories. Our wargame simulations suggest that any attempt to strike human holdings would result in extended conflict with no clear path to victory. They cannot match our combined might. Drex insisted. No, Miracet agreed. But they do not need to win every battle. They only need to make victory too expensive for us to sustain. Their entire strategic philosophy appears based on making any conflict so costly and prolonged that we would eventually negotiate rather than continue fighting. She pulled up economic projections. More concerning is the intelligence we have gathered on their diplomatic activities. Human representatives have been in contact with 47 independent civilizations over the past 5 years. Not just trade discussions. Full diplomatic relations. Technology sharing. Defense pacts. They have been building alliances while we dismiss them as inexperienced newcomers. Zurath sat back heavily on his platform. Show me the species they have contacted. The list appeared, and several council members shifted uncomfortably. These were civilizations that had petitioned for council membership and been denied or indefinitely delayed. Species that had grievances against council trade policies. Systems that had been economically marginalized by the current power structure. They are building a coalition, Corval observed, his mathematical mind seeing the pattern. Not of the powerful, but of the excluded. Every species we have dismissed or disadvantaged over the centuries. How many have formally aligned with humanity? Zurath asked. 12 so far, Miracet replied. But another 23 are in advanced negotiations. And 3 council members have opened backdoor communications with human diplomats, seeking private trade arrangements that violate council economic protocols. Who? Drex demanded. Miracet hesitated, then displayed the names. 2 were minor members. The one was a significant economic power. The betrayal stung. Zurath looked around the chamber, seeing doubt and concern on faces that had been confident just months ago. What do the humans want? He asked finally. We do not know, Miracet admitted. They are not making demands. They are not seeking terms. They have simply stopped engaging with us entirely and started building something new. The speaker's eye stalks drooped slightly. How long did we have this wrong? No one answered. The silence in the chamber was heavy with the weight of a mistake that was only beginning to reveal its true scope. Find out what they want, Zurath ordered finally. Open back-channel communications, quietly. We need to understand what we are dealing with before this situation becomes irreversible. But as the session adjourned, Miracet suspected it might already be too late. The humans were not waiting for the council to change its mind. They were moving forward without asking permission, and that terrified her more than any military threat. The independent colony of Threshna had been struggling for 30 years. Located far from council trade routes, the mining settlement of 8,000 beings barely survived on the thin margins of ore exports. Council merchants paid low prices and charged high fees. But they were the only option until the humans arrived. Colony Administrator Peltash, an elderly Vraxi whose carapace had dulled with age, stood in the landing bay watching the human cargo ship settle onto the pad. It was smaller than the massive council freighters, but it moved with a grace that suggested advanced engineering. The human who emerged was young by their species standards, perhaps 30 cycles. She wore practical work clothes and smiled easily as she approached. Administrator Peltash? I'm Captain Sarah Chun. Thanks for agreeing to meet with us. Peltash clicked his mandibles cautiously. You offer better rates than the council merchants. I am interested, but suspicious. What does humanity gain from this? Chun pulled out a datapad. We gain a reliable trading partner. You have rare earth minerals that our growing colonies need. We have food production technology that can triple your agricultural output. Seems like a fair exchange to me. The Council offers food technology only to members, Paltash said carefully. And membership requires resources we do not possess. We are not the Council, Chun replied simply. She handed him the datapad. Here are our terms. No membership fees. No restrictions on who you can trade with. No requirements that you use our currency or adopt our regulations. We buy your minerals at market rate and sell you our technology for reasonable prices. Simple commerce between equals. Paltash studied the figures. They were almost too good to be true. Why? Chun's smile faded slightly, becoming more serious. Because we remember what it feels like to be told we are not good enough. To be kept waiting for permissions that never come. To watch our people struggle while bureaucrats debate whether we deserve help. She gestured at the colony beyond the bay. We have more resources than we need right now. The Council hoarded technology to maintain control. We would rather build partnerships. Because eventually, we might need help too. And we would rather have friends than subjects. 3 months later, Threshener had new hydroponics facilities producing food at unprecedented rates. Human engineers worked alongside local crews, sharing knowledge freely. The colony's children attended classes taught by human. Teachers who treated education as a gift rather than a privilege. Word spread. The Council's intelligence service tracked the pattern with growing alarm. 16 colonies accepted human aid in the first 6 months. 37 by the end of the first year. Each one followed the same template. Fair trade, technological assistance, no strings attached. It is a trap, Ambassador Drex insisted during another emergency session. They are buying loyalty. Miraset pulled up communication intercepts. Actually, they are earning it. We have monitored human interactions across 43 systems. They do not demand exclusive trade agreements. They do not require military alliances. They simply offer better terms than we do and keep their promises. The Yothrani ambassador chimed softly. Perhaps we should match their offers and admit that our pricing was exploitative? Jurath S.I. stocks contracted. Show weakness to these upstarts? It may be too late regardless, Miraset said, pulling up new data. Humanity has just unveiled something that changes everything. The holographic display showed a communication relay network spanning dozens of systems. Unlike Council relays, which required massive infrastructure and constant maintenance, these were compact, efficient, and distributed. This is quantum entanglement communication, a Siri technical expert explained. Real-time data transmission across any distance. The Council has theorized such technology for centuries, but never achieved stable implementation. The humans have not only built it, they are giving it away. Giving it away? Several delegates echoed in disbelief. Selling at cost, Miraset corrected. Any species can purchase the technology for the price of materials and installation. Suddenly, colonies that relied on Council communication networks have an alternative. One that is faster, cheaper, and not controlled by us. The implications rippled through the chamber. Communication had always been a key aspect of Council power. Information flowed through their networks, giving them awareness and influence across the galaxy. Now that monopoly was breaking, worse news followed. Human scientists had developed shield technology that rendered traditional plasma weapons significantly less effective. They published the research openly in scientific journals, allowing any civilization to replicate it. Council. Military planners warned that their entire weapons infrastructure was becoming obsolete. Then came the diplomatic earthquake. 3 previously unknown civilizations have made first contact with humanity, Miraset reported. her forearms trembling slightly. The humans discovered them in regions we classified as empty space. All three are now in formal diplomatic relations with humanity, not the Council. How did we miss 3 entire civilizations? Jurath demanded. Because they live in extreme environments we considered uninhabitable, the Vraxi science officer explained. One exists in the upper atmospheres of gas giants. Another builds cities in comet clouds. The third exists primarily in virtual space, uploaded consciousness distributed across quantum networks. And humans can interact with them? Apparently, yes. They have shown remarkable adaptability in communication and cultural exchange. More importantly, they offered these species genuine partnership, not the conditional membership we would have required. The political calculus was shifting faster than the Council could respond. Species that had been fence-sitting about membership were suddenly exploring alternatives. Human trade networks were becoming more profitable than Council exchanges. Systems that had relied on Council protection were forming mutual defense pacts with humanity. Instead, economic projections painted a grim picture. Within 5 years, the Council would lose majority market share in 7 major sectors. Within 10 years, their economic influence would be reduced by nearly half. We need to act, Drax rumbled. Military intervention before their coalition grows stronger. Corval ran the calculations and shook his head. We would win the initial battles, but lose the war. Human forces are distributed across too many systems. Their allies would view us as aggressors, pushing more species to their side. The economic cost of sustained conflict would bankrupt our military within 3 years. Then what do you suggest? Jurath asked tiredly. Negotiation, the Karathi ambassador said quietly. We must offer concessions before we have nothing left to bargain with. Pride warred with pragmatism across the chamber. For 3,000 years, the Council had dictated terms to the galaxy. The idea of negotiating from weakness was almost unthinkable, but the alternative was watching their entire system crumble. Draft a proposal, Jurath finally ordered. Offer the humans improved trade terms in consideration for their original requests. See if we can begin dialogue. Miraset began preparing the communication, but she harbored doubts. The humans were not waiting for the Council to change its mind. They had already moved beyond seeking permission. On Earth, Elena Vasquez reviewed the Council's overture with her advisory team. The offer was better than what they had been denied a year ago, but still fell short of equality. What should we tell them? Her deputy asked. Elena thought of the colonies thriving under fair trade, the new civilizations joining their coalition, the technology spreading freely across the galaxy. She thought of humanity's long journey from being dismissed as primitive newcomers to becoming an alternative power center. Tell them we will consider their proposal, she said finally. But we are not interested in improved subordination. If they want to talk, it needs to be about restructuring the entire Council system. They will never agree to that. Elena smiled. Then they will watch their influence continue to decline. Either way, we keep building. We do not need their permission anymore. The message was sent, polite but firm. Humanity was not coming back on the Council's terms. The galaxy was changing, and this time, humans were writing the rules. The Delari delegation arrived at Concordia Prime under heavy security. Their species had been Council members for 600 years, respectable mid-tier participants in galactic politics. Their announcement sent shockwaves through the chamber. The Delari Confederation formally withdraws from the Galactic Council. Ambassador Treshnell declared, his scaled face impassive. Effective in 30 days, we will join the Terran Coalition as equal partners. Jurath's eye stalks rigid with shock. This is betrayal. We have treaties, obligations, all of which we will honor during the transition period. Treshnell interrupted calmly. But we can no longer justify membership in an organization that has consistently prioritized its founding species over newer members. The humans offer us what you have promised for centuries, but never delivered. Genuine equality. He was not alone. Within the week, 2 more species announced their departure. The Karathi, whose representative had seemed sympathetic to humanity during their walkout, led their entire civilization into the coalition. The Bishari, despite their ambassador's earlier tough talk, decided their economic future lay with humanity's growing trade networks. The council was fracturing. Miraset presented her analysis to an increasingly desperate leadership. 5 more species are in advanced withdrawal discussions. Another 12 are negotiating dual membership arrangements, trying to maintain council ties while accessing human markets. Can we prevent this? Jurath asked, his usual confidence eroded. Not through sanctions or threats, Miraset replied. Economic analysis shows that species who join the Terran coalition see immediate benefits. Trade increases by an average of 47% in the first year. Access to human technology accelerates development. Their colonies receive aid without the bureaucratic delays that plague our systems. So we are being outcompeted, Corval observed with mathematical precision. Not through force, but through offering better services. It was a bitter pill for the council to swallow. For millennia, they had maintained control through careful regulation and conditional support. Now a species that had been members for barely 5 decades was demonstrating a more effective model. We need to reform, the Yothrani ambassador chimed. Match their offerings. Restructure our approach. That would mean abandoning 3,000 years of precedent, Drex growled. Giving up the advantages our species earned through seniority. What good are advantages if there is no council left to exercise them in? The Karathi ambassador asked pointedly. The debate raged for hours, but no consensus emerged. The founding species resisted major changes, fearing loss of influence. Newer members demanded reforms, threatening to leave if nothing changed. The council was paralyzed by its own internal contradictions. Then came the assassination attempt. Elena Vasquez was visiting New Harmony, a human colony world in the frontier regions, when the attack occurred. She had just finished a speech to local settlers about humanity's growing partnerships when the bomb detonated. Her security detail reacted instantly, shielding her with their bodies. The blast killed 3 guards and wounded a dozen civilians, but Elena survived with minor injuries. Within hours, human intelligence traced the explosives to a Council Black Operations Division. The evidence was damning. Procurement records, communications between Council intelligence officers, payment transfers from accounts linked to Jurath's own staff, rather than handle it quietly through diplomatic channels. Humanity released everything publicly. The galactic community erupted in outrage. Assassination of diplomats violated every principle of civilized conduct. That the council would resort to murder revealed desperation and moral bankruptcy that shocked even their supporters. How could you? The Yothrani ambassador confronted Jurath in an emergency session. We claim to represent civilization, and you ordered the murder of a diplomatic representative? Jurath's eye stalks waved frantically. I did not authorize this. It was rogue elements, overzealous operatives, from your own staff. Miraset interrupted coldly. She had not been consulted about the operation, and her professional pride was wounded. The evidence is clear. Whether you gave explicit orders or simply created an environment where such actions seemed acceptable, the responsibility is yours. Calls for Jurath's resignation filled the chamber. Species that had been wavering now firmly aligned against the council. The moral high ground, such as it was, had completely collapsed. Elena addressed the galaxy from her hospital bed, bandages visible on her arm. She spoke calmly, without anger, which somehow made her words more powerful. "I do not hate the Council," she said. "I do not even hate those who tried to kill me. I pity them. They are so afraid of change, so desperate to maintain control, that they have lost sight of what civilization is supposed to mean." She looked directly into the camera. The Galactic Council was built on a promise of peaceful cooperation between species. That promise has been broken, not by those who left, but by those who chose violence over dialogue. Her words resonated across thousands of worlds. Public opinion, even among Council loyalists, turned sharply against the leadership. Elena recovered quickly and returned to Earth for strategy sessions. Her office was flooded with messages, but 3 caught her attention. They were from Council members, sent through private encrypted channels. The first was from Ambassador Drex, the Bashari military hawk who had argued for force against humanity. His message was brief. "I was wrong. We have become what we claimed to oppose. How do we fix this?" The second came from Corval, the mathematical Siri. It contained detailed proposals for Council restructuring, including democratic representation and transparent governance. These reforms would have prevented this crisis. Better late than never? The third was from Jurath himself. It was not an apology, not quite. More an acknowledgement of reality. "You have won. What are your terms?" Elena studied the messages with her advisory team. They represented a shift, the old guard finally recognizing that their system was unsustainable. But was it genuine change or just another survival tactic? "They are scared," her deputy observed. "They are losing everything they built, and they are willing to make concessions now that it is too late to matter." Elena considered this. She thought about the colonies flourishing under fair trade, the new civilizations finding their voice in the coalition, the humans who had died protecting her from those who feared equality. "Schedule a press conference," she said finally. "It is time to make our position clear." The announcement was broadcast across the galaxy. Elena stood before cameras from 1,000 news services, human and alien alike, and delivered humanity's ultimatum. "The Galactic Council as it exists must end," she stated simply. "Not because we seek revenge, and not because we want to replace one hierarchy with another. It must end because the fundamental structure is broken." She outlined humanity's demands: dissolution of the current council, formation of a new assembly with equal democratic representation, prohibition on technological gatekeeping, transparent governance with no privileged founding members, and constitutional protections against the kind of discrimination humanity had faced. If these conditions are met, humanity will participate in building a better galactic community. If they are not, we will continue building our own coalition, and the Council can join us when they are ready to accept equality. The gauntlet was thrown. The old order could adapt or perish. Jurath watched the broadcast from his private chambers. His long rule was ending, one way or another. The only question was whether he would be remembered as the leader who destroyed the Council through stubborn pride, or the one who had the courage to rebuild it. For the first time in his century of leadership, he genuinely did not know what to do. Outside his window, the stars shone indifferently, as they had for billions of years. They cared nothing for council politics or human ambitions. They simply existed, vast and eternal. But the civilizations that traveled between them were changing. And this time, the change was coming whether the powerful wanted it or not. 80 months had passed since humanity walked away from the negotiating table. The galaxy had transformed in ways few could have predicted. The Galactic Council held its final session in the Grand Chamber of Concordia Prime. The vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive. The Council would formally dissolve at midnight to be replaced by the Galactic Assembly, a restructured organization built on principles of democratic representation and genuine equality. Jurath stood at his platform one last time, his eye stalks weary. He was not being forced out in disgrace, though many had called for it. Instead, he had chosen to shepherd the transition, using his remaining influence to convince the old guard that adaptation was preferable to irrelevance. For 3,000 years, the Council maintained peace and order across the galaxy, he said, his voice lacking its former authority. We did much good. We prevented wars, facilitated trade, and helped young civilizations find their place among the stars. He paused, and something like regret colored his next words. But we also grew comfortable. We mistook stability for justice. We confused our desire for control with the needs of those we claimed to serve. And when challenged, we chose pride over wisdom. The chamber was quiet. Many present had served the Council faithfully for centuries. This was not just a political restructuring. It was the end of an era. The humans showed us our failures by refusing to accept them, Jurath continued. They did not seek to destroy us. They simply built something better and let us choose whether to join them or fade away. He looked around the chamber at faces alien and familiar. We choose to join them, not in surrender, but in recognition that their way forward is better than our way backward. The dissolution vote passed. At midnight, the Galactic Council would cease to exist. The Galactic Assembly convened for the first time 3 weeks later. The venue was not Concordia Prime, with its towering platforms and hierarchical architecture. The humans had designed a new station, orbiting a neutral star system claimed by no species. The chamber was circular, with no elevated platforms. Every delegation sat at the same level, arranged in concentric rings facing a central forum. The design made a statement. Here, there were no founding members with special privileges, only participants with equal voices. Elena Vasquez entered the chamber wearing simple diplomatic attire, neither ornate nor deliberately plain. She was one of dozens of ambassadors arriving for the historic first session. Cameras from across the galaxy recorded the moment. The procedural details had taken months to negotiate. Representation was based on population and economic contribution, with safeguards to ensure smaller civilizations could not be ignored by larger ones. Decisions required majority approval, with supermajorities needed for major policy changes. Technology sharing was mandated to be transparent and equitable. Military action required near unanimous consent, making wars of aggression effectively impossible. It was messy and complicated, full of compromises that satisfied no one completely. In other words, it was democracy. Jurath attended as part of the Zorani delegation, no longer speaker, but simply one representative among many. He had been offered a ceremonial position in the new assembly, but declined. "I've had my time," he told colleagues. "Let younger voices lead now." The first session focused on establishing operating procedures, hardly glamorous work. But the symbolism was profound. Species that had been denied council membership for centuries now sat beside founding members as equals. Civilizations humanity had discovered were welcomed immediately rather than made to wait. The chamber hummed with languages, clicking, chiming, and resonating in ways that defied human hearing. During a break, Jurath approached Elena privately. It was the first time they had spoken directly since the walkout. "Did you plan all of this from the beginning?" he asked quietly. "Was every move calculated toward this outcome?" Elena considered the question carefully. "We planned for every possibility," she admitted. "We knew the council might refuse our requests, so we prepared alternatives. We knew sanctions might come, so we built hidden infrastructure. We knew we might need allies, so we reached out to species you had ignored." She met his multiple gazes evenly. "But we did not plan for this specific outcome. We could not have predicted whether you would respond with war, negotiation, or stubborn resistance until we collapsed. You chose negotiation. That choice made this possible. You gave us no good alternatives, Girath observed. No, Elena agreed. We made the cost of maintaining the old system higher than the cost of changing it. That is not the same as forcing you. You could have chosen differently. And if we had chosen war? Elena's expression hardened slightly. Then we would have fought. And it would have been bloody and terrible. And there would have been no winners. But we were prepared to pay that price rather than accept permanent subordination. Girath was quiet for a moment. Your species frightens me, he admitted. Not because you are violent or cruel, because you are willing to walk away from everything rather than accept injustice. Most species negotiate, compromise, accept what they can get. You simply refuse. Is that so different from what your species did 3,000 years ago? Elena asked. The Council was not always the dominant power. Your ancestors built it by refusing to accept the chaos that existed before. They walked away from the old ways and created something new. That was different, was it? Elena challenged. Or have you simply become what you once replaced? Every system eventually calcifies. Every hierarchy eventually serves itself rather than its original purpose. We did not destroy the Council. We just refused to let it destroy us. You did the rest yourselves. The session resumed before Girath could respond, but her words stayed with him. Perhaps she was right. Perhaps the Council's dissolution was not humanity's doing, but the inevitable consequence of a system that had outlived its usefulness. The first major assembly vote came 2 weeks later. A proposal to establish a technology-sharing library where all member species would contribute and access research freely. It was exactly the kind of initiative the old Council would have blocked, fearing it would reduce the competitive advantages of advanced species. The vote passed. Overwhelmingly, similar proposals followed. Joint defense initiatives with equal burden sharing. Trade agreements that prioritized fairness over profit. Environmental protections for developing worlds. Scientific cooperation on projects too large for any single civilization. Slowly, the galaxy began to reorganize itself around different principles. Not perfect principles, not without conflicts or setbacks, but better than what had come before. 6 months into the Assembly's operation, Elena delivered an address from Earth that was broadcast to member worlds. She stood in the rebuilt plaza where the assassination attempt had occurred, now a memorial garden. 80 months ago, humanity made a choice, she said. We chose dignity over convenience. We chose to build rather than beg. We chose to walk away from a system that did not serve us and create something that could serve everyone. She looked up at the stars, visible in Earth's night sky. The galaxy is vast and ancient. Humanity is young and small by comparison. But we have learned something in our brief time among the stars. No one grants you equality. You must claim it. No one gives you respect. You must earn it. And no one builds a better future for you. You must build it yourself. Her words resonated across human space and beyond. They became a rallying cry for species still struggling for recognition, still fighting against old prejudices, still building toward a better tomorrow. On Concordia Prime, technicians began dismantling the old council chamber. The towering speaker's platform was removed first, broken into pieces and recycled. The hierarchical seating was replaced with equipment storage. The symbols of the old order were carefully archived in museums, historical artifacts of a time that had passed. Some mourned the loss. Others celebrated the change. Most simply adapted, as civilizations do, moving forward because standing still was never really an option. Elena Vasquez returned to her seat in the assembly chamber, just one voice among hundreds, and smiled. This was what she had fought for. Not dominance, not revenge, but simply a place at the table where humanity could speak and be heard as equals. She thought of all the humans who had worked toward this moment, some still living, many now gone. She thought of the species who had joined them, the colonies that had thrived, the civilizations that had found hope in humanity's example. And she thought of Giraffe's question, "Did you plan all of this?" The truth was more complicated. They had planned to survive. They had planned to resist. They had planned never to accept being told they were not good enough. But this new galaxy being born from the ashes of the old, this was not something that could be planned. It was something that had to be built, day by day, choice by choice, by everyone willing to believe that tomorrow could be better than yesterday. Humanity had walked away from the table. And in doing so, they had changed what the table itself could be. The galaxy was learning a lesson that humanity had learned long ago, written in their history through revolutions and movements and countless struggles for justice. The most powerful word in any language is no. No, we will not accept this. No, we will not wait. No, we will not be less than we are.